Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation00, and given the recent videos that I've made on Sergeant Johnson, specifically the Orion candidates and kind of an honorary to Sergeant Johnson, alongside some recent tweets by Marty O'Donnell, and a very recent video by Hidden Xperia regarding Sergeant Johnson, I'm dusting off and revisiting a script I made practically at the very start of my channel back when I was still using a potato as a microphone. The video that I originally posted about Sergeant Johnson perhaps being alive was actually script number 16 of my Lore and Theory series, which basically means it happened within a few weeks of the channel actually starting to grow substantially. In either case, it's time to revisit Sergeant Johnson and talk about how perhaps he could be alive, how perhaps he should have been brought back into Halo, and maybe looking into the future on how he at least could be brought back into Halo.
It's not impossible, to say the least.
So, let's roll the intro. So my guy Hidden Xperia made a video basically talking about the return of Sergeant Johnson. Now, he specifically points out that really there's no reason why we can't have kind of prequel games that see Sergeant Johnson coming back into the Halo universe. I mean, yes, he died at the end of Halo 3, but why haven't we received a Contact Harvest game yet? I mean, I'm completely on board with that idea. And really, when it boils down to it, I mean, Sergeant Johnson fought alongside the Master Chief during Silent Storm, the very campaign that Master Chief became Master Chief. That would be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
So I'm already totally on board with that, and he does reference that he's kind of on the fence as to whether or not it's a good idea to bring Sergeant Johnson, quote-unquote, back from the dead, although he did reference again that many of the decisions that were made in Halo 3's campaign have kind of retroactively been, well, undone by new lore, and also briefly explains...
Okay, so, because this keeps getting brought up, like, did anyone actually think that the Gravemind died with Halo 3? With the let's take the 343 lore out of it, right? Let's take the new canonical lore out of it. There's no way the Gravemind died at the end of Halo 3. Sure, we blew up the new installation, right? It was Installation00, the new one, right? We blew it up. There's no way that you're telling me that this ancient parasitical, I almost said paracausal for the second after that, this ancient parasite, this hive mind, this being that transcends certain notions of reality. Yeah, you simply cut off one head of the Hydra. Yeah, that's it. And the Ark, incorrect. We did not blow up the Ark. The Ark, that's where... No, because the Ark was still... Oh, this Ark was still intact. And, I mean, that leads obviously into Halo Wars 2, which is more 343 era. But, I mean, the Ark was fine. Survived in some capacity. Absolutely. No, the Gravemind absolutely survived. And we know that High Charity was around there. It's not impossible to get just essence transferred back into, High Charity, and we know High Charity's on the Ark, so I mean, that in itself means pretty constant. Because it's a common criticism that I see that, everything in Halo 3 has been just retroactively just kind of thrown to the side, and I do disagree with the notion of it. I think that Halo 3 is still one of my favorite games, don't get me wrong, they're like top 10 games. There's a reason that every time we do a Halo night, I play H3 multiplayer, right? I think that some of it is a little unwarranted hate, like how some people will shit on Destiny for certain things, and it's like, you mean like the actual game itself? I know that, like for example, Ghost of the Deep in Destiny came out, and people constantly bitch about the shield health pool of the bosses, Ekthar, and the last boss. Oh, well, you're having to do 20 million damage. Okay, cite the numbers. Let's see the numbers. Because apparently Reddit says these numbers are a thing. Have you considered using Arbalest, which has proven to just one-tap the shield? Oh, well, that makes my damage output. As someone who's run it, like, yeah, it makes my damage output. Okay, but you still have the ability to crack the shield, swap your kit over, and then just do damage as normal. It's... Yes, it for a large portion of the player base is an issue, but also this is a direct response to people saying that Root of Nightmares was too easy. So, I don't get a lot of the criticisms. Like, I get them, but I'm just like, okay, I need you to, like, cite me some stuff, And yes, opinions do exist. Opinionated comments do exist. I personally don't have an issue with 4. I don't have an issue with 5. I actually really liked 5. I'm kind of the odd one out in here. I'm sure the Act 1 and Act and Hidden Experia would talk to me on that one and just be like, are you sure about that? I don't think you'd like that. I personally liked it. As long as they're being opinionated, I mean, yeah, I do like them. I actually really liked Where Infinite went as well. I want more Infinite story content, but unfortunately due to events, I don't think we're going to actually get it. I digress, this turned into a rant. Point being is that I think that as far as a continuation is concerned, I think 343's done a really good job in terms of storyboarding a lot of things. Sure, there's been some hit or miss, like we didn't see Halo and Arby actually meet at the end of Halo 5. That was in a book. The Didact being composed was in a comic series. I have constantly harshed on the decision for Halo to have, all these extended, crucial lore bits in all these, it's in this comic book, and it's in this book, and it's in this graphic novel, and if you buy this, you can see this, and they all come back into the mainline game. It's an issue that the Star Wars sequel trilogy had, as someone that likes the sequel trilogy, right? Like, you can't expect your audience to play Halo 1, 2, 3, and then go to 4, 5, 6, because once you go to 4, 5, 6, you're going to be missing a lot of content. You're going to be missing the Swords of St. Helios. You're going to be missing a lot of context that have. You're going to be missing the entirety of Blue Team going to one of the other installations, and the Didact being composed because Chief and the Didact were fighting, which technically the Didact couldn't have been composed from what I understand, but technically he was composed, so that in itself is a little bit of a paradox. I'd have someone actually explain that to me a little bit more. That being said, I think the new Halo games are getting a lot of flack. If anything, my gripes with more modern Halo games is strictly mechanical. Like, I think 5 had the best modern multiplayer in terms of the Twitch shooter experience. I liked 4's multiplayer. I like 3's multiplayer. I like Reach's multiplayer. CE's a little rough for me, can't get into it, but I understand why people like it. It is strictly mechanical in the things that I personally just dislike about it.
It's the actual development process of Halo 3 and some of the things going on behind the scenes that led to these decisions. I strongly recommend you go across and watch his video. It's linked in the description down below. Now, in my recent video, the Sergeant Johnson, The Life and Death of a Legend, I actually got a comment that is pinned from Marty O'Donnell himself, saying, for the record, I think he's still alive.
That's okay. So technically we can't take this as truth. However, Marty O'Donnell, you fucking legend. I will say that it's like, what is it? There was a writer on the Elder Scrolls team, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind specifically, and apparently he still just puts out stuff. Like, he still puts out, like, not official stories about the Elder Scrolls universe, but because he works so intrinsic to the Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls writing team, even though it's technically fan fiction, a lot of people will take it at face value. Like, what is it? Is it where the Eye of Magnus is in Skyrim? I can't remember the name of the city, but the Eye of Magnus, right? Apparently, inside of it, according to the stories this person has written, is like 6,000 plus years in the future. It's some like robotic space dwarf thing. Well, it was in near Winterhold. It was in a specific Nord city, ancient city. Anyways, moving on. But like, it was like some like mechanical space dwarf automaton that's currently in the Eye of Magnus, and because of energy it offputs, that's why things are attracted to it. So it's like, I think this is one of those, like, we can't take this as canon. However, it's kind of like Samuel L. Jackson, and on the other hand, like Samuel L. Jackson talking to George Lucas, like, yeah, he's alive. Mace Windu's alive. One of those. That's, I'm so happy for you, Installation00. That's epic that Marty O'Donnell commented.
Now, that video went live on February 17th, 2023. In December of 2022, just 2 months beforehand, he put a post up on his Twitter feed of the great David Sully, the voice actor behind Sergeant Johnson, and then put a couple of lead-up comments to that video saying, so he made it off the first Halo, why couldn't he have done it again? I didn't kill him, 343 Guilty Spark, and then in commas, killed him.
I love this. This is just gonna fuel speculation, and I'm here for this.
Indeed, even my original video, Could Johnson Be Alive, which I posted on October the 3rd, 2018, I actually put that around Twitter, and Frank O'Connor responded to it. And although his response was steeped in sarcasm, he at least acknowledged the potential for Sergeant Johnson to be alive, given the lore that is available to us. It's at this point that I kind of feel like I need to just readdress that earlier video. Now, the original script and the original video actually only topped out about a 5-minute video, and if you consider back in the day my outros were about 2 minutes, I'm pretty sure I can literally reread this script ad verbatim and get it out in a couple of minutes, so bear with me while I quickly do that, but if you want to skip it, then here's the timestamp to go to.
No, I feel that, honestly. Like, I look, like, some of the old Kip videos, like, I will have to re-react to some of those at some point, because, one, enough time has passed that I've completely forgotten them, but two, just the audio quality, the redeem spam is... So, I feel this. I understand this. I hit play. There we go.
So the script is as follows. In this episode we explore whether it would be canonically possible to bring Sergeant Johnson back from the dead, so to speak. In Halo Wars 2, Sergeant Johnson appears as a leader, arguably just for gameplay mechanics. We saw him die on Installation 04B above the Ark in Halo 3 right before it fired. There can't be a lore reason that he could be alive. Or can there? Halo has a teleportation grid. Evidently, it can be accessed by any being with the know-how and enough energy to do so, just like Cortana does in Halo CE by using Chief's Mjolnir power supply. So, how does this apply to bringing Sergeant Johnson back from the dead? Well, 343 Guilty Spark blasts him with a monitor beam, causing Johnson to collapse. It's worth noting the beam didn't pass through him, and marine armor is actually designed with the same refractive coating that Mjolnir is.
Yeah.
So the blast, while it certainly would have seriously burned his flesh, it wasn't immediately fatal of an injury. But he eventually, quote-unquote, dies with Chief knelt by his side. I believe it's a little bit more like he simply slipped into unconsciousness due to the immense pain and shock. Chief activates Halo and runs clear as the control room begins to shake itself apart, and we see Johnson's body slide off and fall into the pits of the control room to either be fatally injured by the fall or destroyed by the Halo firing. Unless Mendicant Bias decided to intervene. Mendicant Bias spoke to Chief through the terminal on Halo from his concealed location upon the Ark and was aware of his activity on the ring. He will also have known about Johnson. Mendicant could have activated the Halo teleportation grid and teleported Johnson in an unconscious, wounded state to a secure location within the Ark, maybe even before he fell deep enough into the control room to hit anything. How about healing though? Well, there are two ways Mendicant Bias could have healed Johnson. Tragic Solitude is the monitor of the Ark. Since the end of Halo 3, Tragic has been in close contact with other humans but never mentioned Johnson. However, he did keep a severely wounded Marine by the name of Bobby Kodiak alive in a kind of grotesque, part cyborg kind of way. Mendicant could have done the same to Johnson. But better still, Hurugok, or engineers, can rebuild technology at incredible speed.
The engineers are so fucking cool. I love them.
Well, there is a special kind of life worker Hurugok which can repair organics. One such Hurugok repaired the two broken legs of Spartan 3 Olivia within the caverns under Gao. It is entirely possible, as the Ark's habitable environment was established as per the librarian's request, and the librarian is a life worker, that a population of life worker Hurugok likely live on the Ark. So, a quick recap. Johnson was injured badly, but likely not fatally due to the beam not penetrating completely and his armor being refractive. He was likely burned badly, went into shock, then losing consciousness. His body could have then been teleported by Mendicant Bias off of the Halo ring and into a secured location within the Ark, where he could have set Lifeworker Hurugok upon the task of healing Johnson. Halo Wars 2 comes around, and perhaps Johnson found out that the Spirit of Fire was nearby, got into contact somehow, and now he is aboard the Spirit of Fire, helping fight back the Banished. Boom. Johnson is back in the game. Does that sound plausible? Okay, so that was the original video script. And it does still stand true. The lore that surrounds the Halo universe, the different things that are in place, do kind of allow for at least a slim possibility that Johnson could still be alive. I mean, it is pretty clear that, Chief took 3 blasts from 343 Guilty Spark, and it didn't really affect... it crippled Chief to the floor, but it didn't really affect him per se. The Arbiter took a long, sustained blast from 343 Guilty Spark, and the Arbiter was perfectly fine. Johnson took a relatively short blast to the chest, and somehow he died? Again, totally not ruling out the severe burns that he would have got as a consequence, and that the pain, the shock, yeah, that could have made him pass out. But Sergeant Johnson is an Orion candidate. He's a Spartan 1. He's got augmentations. By rights, there's a decent chance he survived that.
I had a conversation with somebody once, I think it was a prior roommate, where we were just talking. He's like, "What do you mean Johnson's not a Spartan? Or what do you mean Johnson's Spartan?" I'm like, "Yeah, he was the Orion project. So Chief is Spartan. Chief's a Spartan too. Johnson's is Project Orion, which is the Spartan ones. So when it's Chief and Johnson speaking, that is the first generation talking to the second generation of Spartans. Johnson is a Spartan. He is Project Orion. But yeah, I had to have this conversation, and they're just like, "Oh, well, cite your source." And I'm like, "Okay, done." Yeah, no, that is important to understand about Johnson.
Hell, he survived worse odds.
Sergeant, we're surrounded.
God damn it, Jenkins! Fire your weapons!
There are too many,
Don't
Sarge!
even think about it, Marine.
Listen, you don't like me, and I sure as hell don't like you. But if we don't do something, Mr. Mohawk's gonna activate this ring, and we're all gonna die. Oh, come on. Impress me.
Stop! You imbecile! He wants you to kill him. Now the gate has been unlatched.
We know that the firing of Installation 04B didn't actually cause as much damage to the Ark as originally predicted, as Flood survived on the Ark and had to be contained by the Sentinels and an energy barrier. There was still life on the Ark when the Banished and the Spirit of Fire arrived. Mendicant Bias is present on the Ark. There are life worker Huragok in existence. The teleportation grid exists. All of this points towards a canonical way in which Sergeant Johnson could have survived. Now, again, games since have kind of tried to fill in the void left by Johnson. This is, again, covered in Hidden Xperia's video. Halo 4 kind of had Sarah Palmer. Halo 5 kind of did the same with a much larger and inflated cast.
I never read this as being trying to replace... So, Hidden Xperia and I have definitely had some... Like, I have my professional disagreements with them. Not that I hate them as a content creator or anything like that. I mean, they put out good content. They've had some really... Hidden Xperia's had some really interesting takes that I've just vehemently just disagreed with. Also, the context of some of them. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Hidden Xperia puts out a video, and it's effectively, contextually, it's saying that, like... You know, oh, well, this is just ripping on Johnson. They're trying to fulfill Johnson. I never read it as such. I mean, you know, maybe I'm just reading into the game in a different way. Maybe I just never got that impression because it's not meant to be Johnson. You can't replace Johnson. You know, it's that he was a character, but you can't replace that. So I don't know. I'd have to see the original video to see where Hidden Xperia is coming from. This does not surprise me as a take from Hidden Xperia, though, because they've had a lot of takes like this.
Halo Infinite kind of did it with Fernando Esparza, but...
No, it didn't! Okay, if Hidden Xperia says that this was a replacement for Johnson, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Like, Hidden Xperia, that is just inherently wrong. That was not the intent of him as a character. He was meant to be a support role. He was meant to be the face of civilians, just like, I'm doing my part, that kind of meme, right? You know, he was never meant to be a Johnson replacement, and if anything, it was to show a human side of Chief of, we all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I couldn't save Cortana. You know, I'm not infallible. You know, don't look at me like I'm perfect. So, I'm sorry. I have to disagree with Hidden Xperia on this. If this is Hidden Xperia's point being made, you know, I disagree with that. I do feel that is the incorrect take here to take away. And if anything, if that's what you took away from Halo Infinite, that's probably why you didn't enjoy Halo Infinite. Because you've been vocal that you don't enjoy Halo Infinite, which is fine. I get it. The netcode of multiplayer fucks with me, if I'm being completely honest. That's just not what was happening here, though. So I do disagree with that. And hence, you know, giving credence to my point of I've had professional disagreements with Hidden Xperia. Don't hate them as a content creator. I think they do awesome work. I have to disagree when things like this are stated from them.
Nothing's quite filled that void that Johnson has left. Had this lore, canonical way in which Johnson could have survived been explored sooner, they could have actually made it canon that Johnson survived and is now with the Spirit of Fire on the Ark. Hell, we've even discovered since that there are other Ark portals that exist around the galaxy that go to the Ark. There's one on Reach. Johnson, even if he didn't link up with the Spirit of Fire, could have accessed one of those portals and then come out on Reach. And upon navigating his way back to the surface and linking back up with the UNSC, he could have quite easily been factored back into active service and become a Spartan 4. Now imagine the different kind of reception that would have had in Halo 4 if in this cutscene, where the Chief is waiting at the door and the 4 Spartan Fords move past him and secure the area, and then he's approached from the darkness by Sarah Palmer. Imagine if it wasn't Palmer that approached him, but Johnson as a Spartan 4.
Honestly, if that would have happened, people would have bitched about it. People would have bitched that it wouldn't have made sense. I agree with where you're coming from. I see it. I get it. People would have bitched about it. People would have said, that doesn't make sense. They're just retconning Johnson back into the game. I don't like this. You know, he needs to get taken out. It should have made sense with, you know, how is Johnson even on this ship? You know, it should have been, you know, some UNSC team that was out there. And, you know, we can see the next generation of Spartans. Exactly. Chat, you're right, Rubyrox. They would have said, what the fuck? You know, this doesn't make sense. And that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing about, like, the Halo community in general, is that there's these unrealistic narrative demands, and as well as just like contradicting themselves. You know, I can agree. I get where they're wanting this. You know, and I could see it would have been 1 too soon. Narratively, it would have been too soon. 2, people would have bitched about it because it didn't make sense. Oh, it's 343 trying to take over. Oh, well, you know, they didn't care about Halo. You know, Johnson was killed at the end of 3, and we'd be having a different conversation here. You know, did I necessarily like Sarah Palmer to the same degree as Johnson? No, but Sarah Palmer is a different character than Johnson, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly serviceable. You know, as long as she's not actively trying to replace Johnson, that's fine. She isn't Johnson. As far as I'm aware, she's the like head Spartan in the Spartan 4 group, right? The Spartan 4 platoon out here, right? That, as far as I'm aware. I get it. I get it. I think that that's a little unrealistic and unreasonable in terms of a narrative demand.
I guarantee you, if that would have taken place, the reception of Halo 4 would have been completely different. But even aside from that, is there a way that Johnson could still be factored into future Halo games? Well, yes, we could have prequel games, we could have Contact Harvest, we could have Silent Storm, we could have those extrapolated out into games and actually have Johnson, a younger Johnson, fighting in the Human Covenant War once again. That could be a thing. But is there a way that he could be factored into the current events of the Halo universe, into the Halo Infinite, Zeta Halo kind of era of Halo? Yes. Yes, there could be. There was a kind of cut ending to Halo Infinite that showed Chief and Fernando Esparza looking out of the window of the Pelican in response to something outside that got them excited. Now, it could theoretically be possible that that was the Spirit of Fire arriving at Zeta Halo. Again, Spirit of Fire was at the Ark. If Johnson could have survived by being teleported off of Installation 04B and then being healed by life worker Huragok and then finding his way to the Spirit of Fire crew, it's entirely possible that Sergeant Johnson could be factored into future Halo campaigns and link up with the Chief once more alongside Red Team.
If anything, that makes a hell of a lot of sense to me personally, because then you can canonize Johnson being in Halo Wars 2. You can build the story of Johnson's separate path as after the ending of Halo 3, being healed by the White Life Worker Horogok. You can, then have him go into, battling the Banished with the Spirit of Fire on the Ark, and then, guess what? Coming back for Halo Infinite's DLC, right? You have Johnson right there. Maybe he's got a metal arm. Maybe he's got Forerunner implants or augmentations so that he did survive, right? Him and Chief's like, what happened to you? I saw you. I saw you go. I saw you die. Whatever, right? And then Johnson can do a quick flashback recount of, oh, Chief, Chief, you know I'm not that easy to kill. Flashes back to, hear me out, Halo 1, when Johnson and the Elite are hugging on the ring when it's about to blow up, because yes, Johnson survived that. Right, that makes perfect sense to me. And if anything, enough time has passed narratively that it's not going to feel like a cop-out. It's not going to feel like they're ideally bankrupt. I think that would be better than in Halo 4. Oh, suddenly there's Johnson with no explanation or minimal explanation, especially when people are already not liking Halo 4, right? I think that works a hell of a lot better.
Be a Spartan 4, but hey, there's still time for that. He is a Spartan 1 after all. Hell, that could be a hell of an end to the next campaign, so to speak, is that Johnson and Red Team help Chief deal with whatever the threat is at that time. Finally, maybe the Infinity's sister ship arrives, the Eternity, or hell, they just get onto the Spirit of Fire and they leave and return to UNSC-controlled space. And when they arrive, Chief could be present as Johnson is put through the Spartan 4 augmentation procedures. And maybe, in a post-credit cutscene, Johnson could emerge wearing his own suit of Mjolnir, walking up to the Chief, and hell, that could then pave the way for multiplayer seasons where Johnson's involved in the narrative, or it could pave the way for future campaigns. I mean, again, there's no secret. We're going to be waiting quite a long time for the next campaign to come out. There's no two ways about it. But in using the Unreal Engine and these canon narrative lore reasons as to how things could happen in a certain order, there's really no excuse now to not bring Johnson back into the mainline lore. And I don't know about you, but there's nothing I can think of off the top of my head that will get the community, the Halo fandom in general, quite as excited as Johnson re-emerging and becoming a Spartan. That's just creme de la creme. That has to happen. I can't see a reason as to why that shouldn't happen, and they've got enough time now to actually make it happen and happen in a decent way. So yeah, I'm getting off script and rather excited here. Put your comments down below as to whether or not you like this idea or you don't like this idea. If you think it's possible, if you don't think it's possible, just give me your thoughts. Let's get a narrative going. Again, make sure you go across and watch Hidden Xperia's video, and until next time. Thanks for watching. If I could respectfully ask, if you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed, and if not, it's not a problem. And be sure to pop a comment below to throw me an idea on what you want to see next. Massive thanks to my awesome patrons, Spartan10148, the Metarch of my facility, Falcon, Prophet, Leon, Sylphia, Mikhail, and Irrefutable, the monitors of the array, Darian, Flaming Halo, Cameron, Spartan0137, the Cave Potato, Andrew, Shia, Dakota, and Ghost, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, and my loyal enforcers, and all other patrons who have supported the channel and helped keep the domain operational. Huge props and recognition to Todd Morrison, Spartan137, Wesley Stuckey, and Jacob Kemp for jumping on as Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members. You guys are epic. Shout out to John for reasons. And if you want to help support the channel and score yourself tons of perks and merch, head over to Patreon or consider becoming a YouTube member. Links, as ever, are in the description. Much love. Take it easy, everyone, and find peace in the domain.
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a good video. Definitely go give Installation00 a watch. I've had multiple people go, "Hey Kip, have you heard of Installation00?" Yes, I've heard of Installation00. I absolutely love their content. Absolutely love your content. Can't wait for the Mjolnir suit that you're working on. Absolute legend. I love following that. No, I think this was good. I think this was a good discussion. I think it was good to be had. There would be very little else that could rival Johnson coming back into the fray. I think enough narratively has happened and enough narratively has passed that this could be an option we could pursue. I do think that it would help the setting as well, where humanity's feeling desperate and there's a lot of despair and stuff. I mean, we could see about getting Johnson, we could see about getting Noble Six back, and have a final climactic showdown with the Primordial, right? We could have or fight the Endless, right? And then, I almost said the final shape. We could have this massive all-out thing, right? I mean, that's not impossible. I will have to look at Hidden Xperia's video on the topic. I am not looking at the subject as far as saying that the engineer, I can never remember his name, from Infinite was a replacement for Johnson. I inherently disagree with that, and that is tempering my expectations in a disinterested manner, if that makes sense, towards the subject. No Noble Six, I mean, right, and then Noble Six is honestly subjective. Did he survive? Did he not survive? Up to the player, you know. But as far as keeping his story ambiguous is probably the good call there. Kind of like Destiny, where does your character use Ace of Spades to shoot Uldren Sov? Yes or no? It's left ambiguous who actually does it. But he does die in some capacity. It's just, did you do it? Did you not do it? It's ambiguous, and I like that. That's fine. June is dead now, though. June is dead. He died with the station with, what was it, Achilles, the AI blowing up the station, allegedly at the very least. But I digress. Moving on. You know, there's a lot that a lot of demands put on this, and you know, a big studio like Microsoft, a big company with expectations set on it. You know, absolutely. You know, I think there needs to be narrative oversight. I think that there needs to be a vetting process. I think that there needs to be make sure that the narrative is sound. And as I said, personally, I haven't found issue with the narrative. Maybe a little quirk here and there, but for the most part, I mean, this is what they released. This makes sense to me. I can justify it. They're telling a war story. Infinite was just it was a story about the price of war and people just doing their duty as a soldier. We had what was it with Esherim, his final moments. He was just a soldier doing what he thought was right, and that's what the story was about. I had no issues with the story whatsoever, and actually really liked a lot of the notes that they hit with it. I thought the Cortana versus the weapon interactions were awesome. So I don't really get a lot of story flack that people give Halo. But I mean, I don't know, maybe I have rose-tinted lenses, who knows. I will be maybe Thursday, or when we do start doing YouTube reacts, we'll throw Hidden Xperias in there, but I'm definitely tempering my expectations in a very questionable light if we're thinking that the mechanic from Infinite was a Johnson replacement. I vehemently disagree with that. That being said, Installation00, absolutely legendary content creator. Definitely go check them out. I have followed their videos for a while. Not disappointed at all in any way, shape, or form. And I'm really glad that they're still going strong, especially with a content drought that Halo's going through right now.